Welcome to the playthrough of Almoravid. This is the quick start scenario, scenario A, and we reached turn 2 and the Levy phase of the playthrough. Step in the Levy phase, and for the first turn it was capability cards were drawn, but in the subsequent turns it will be event cards. So we'll draw 2 event cards for the allies. The allies draw 2 hold cards, betrayal terms, which is useful with doing the siege. So if Toledo ever falls, we can get some spoils. And they also chose or drew Al-Qadar puppet anymore, which is very useful to remove 2 jihads as long as there's no Muslim lords in the Taifa. The Muslims drew a couple of interesting events. Berenger Rahman, that's interesting because they've been saving up to buy pay off the Count of Barcelona, and this way they get them cheaper. And Swollen Rivers, a nice hold card because it basically lets the Muslims force a battle if they want to. Neither the Christians nor the Muslims feel any need at the moment to pay, and they don't have to disband any lords, so we'll go on to the muster phase. Failing to take Toledo kind of puts the Christians in a bad position because most of the lords cannot actually muster. Sancho is the only one that can actually do that. Sancho has 2 lordship points, so he'll spend those on capabilities for long-range raids and also some bowmen in case they run into a battle. Abu Bakr will use his 1 lordship point to hire some bowmen. Al-Mustain will get a cart and then use that cart to hire the Count of Barcelona and his knights. And then Al-Mustamid will get the Andalusian horses for everyone and also a cart. And now we'll start the campaign phase. First we have a chance to discard any capabilities, or we have to discard capabilities if you have extra ones. We don't. And then as we go on to planning, and for the Christians, the considerations are first off, kind of left Pedro without supply or coin, so we'll give him a chance to supply, and then we need to finish the siege off, so a few rounds we'll give for the Alfonso, and then we want to have Sancho at least move once, and maybe one of the other lords, but then let Alfonso kind of finish it off, since he's flexible and he can carry a lot of people with him. The Muslims will just go ahead and plan on trying to get into Toledo and into a castle or something, so when Toledo falls, they'll be able to add some jihads that can take the effect down a little bit. And then also Mustamid will be a lieutenant, so we'll only have Mustamid we have to plan for, and then Abu Bakr, and then they'll have to have 1 pass since there's 3 of each. So you make Al-Mutamid the lieutenant, and Al-Mustain is subordinate. Al-Mustain will go ahead and add the 2 gold to the kitty for to share with everyone else if they need it. So we'll start the campaign with the first Christian lord, who is Pedro, and Pedro needs to get some supplies. He happens to have 3 carts, which makes it to his capital, and so he'll be able to draw supplies. I think he has 2 actions, he'll get 2 supply. And while we still can, we probably better play our Al-Qadar puppet Emir and remove a couple of jihad markers. And that will adjust the score. So we have the first Muslim action, and Almoravid will move, and he'll go ahead and advance towards Toledo, and then threatens Pedro. So Pedro has a decision to make whether to stand and fight. Pedro's probably wondering where the Muslims got all those knights. So Pedro doesn't look like too good of shape here. On the defense, to be able to go first, to be able to inflict about 4 hits. But the Muslims could easily absorb that with 2 men-at-arms or so, leaving all the horse intact, which is 7, which would likely knock out like 4 out of 5 of his units. And that way, and then they still have to deal with whatever infantry's left. And then the next round, so Pedro will decline and decide to retreat. The Muslims, however, would love to fight this battle, and they happen to have a swollen river card in hand, so they use it for the capability to block and avoid battle. So the battle will begin. And so the battle begins. Pedro, looking at the odds, and it hasn't changed from the previous calculations, decides to go ahead and concede. And that will mean that the battle will only last 1 round, and the consequences shouldn't be too bad. Though it also means that Pedro's hits will be halved. Okay, we'll go to the combat. There's no archery phase, so we'll just go to horses. And Pedro has a knight, a sergeant, and a light horse. So basically that will be 2 plus 1 plus a half, round up to 4. Except for since he conceded, that will just be 2. And so the Muslims need to absorb 2 hits. They decide to go against their men-at-arms, and so the roll is 1 success and 1 failure, so they'll remove 1 men-at-arms. Now Pedro has to defend himself against the cavalry charge, basically, and so there's 7 hits he has to deal with. So first to try to defend with the knight, and the success would be 1 through 4. Roll a 6, and that's gone. Try the sergeant, another 6, and that's gone. Try the light horse. Have to roll a 1. That's a failure. Now going against the men-at-arms for the next roll, and there's a success. Serves 1 more hit, but then roll again, and it's a failure, so that goes. And then the peasants, I guess, is kind of an automatic fail. So that was serfs. But that's all the forces, so Pedro has been defeated. Now we'll go through the aftermath of the battle. First off, Pedro is retreated. Now we'll look at the losses phase, and Almoravid will try to see if they can recover the men-at-arms that routed, and they have to roll 1, 2, 3, and they roll the 3, so they recover their forces. Now for Pedro, since he conceded, he gets to roll the army value to try to recover. So sequentially he rolled for forces, was able to recover the knight and the sergeant and the luckily enough the light horse. Pedro also was tried to recover the men-at-arms, but failed, and the serfs are not returned in this manner. There are no spoils for this battle since Pedro decided to concede, and Pedro has enough transport to move his provender. Now we roll for any service adjustments because Pedro lost the battle, and we rolled a 5. which means he shifts his service 3 to the left, which is not very good. So we get to the feed, pay, and disband phase for the Christians first, and Pedro can actually feed himself using Provider, but unfortunately has no loot or money to pay, so they will disband. Muslims need to feed. Turns out Al-Mastain takes 2 Provider to feed them because of the size of the army. He only has 1, spends that, so Al-Mastain will have to pay 2, and he does have 2. Started off with 3, leaves paying 2, leaves 1. Now it's Alfonso's turn. He could use some more supply. And as you might remember, it takes 11 carts to be able to use both of his sites to supply from. Unfortunately, the Christians kind of lack some 4th site, and they only have 9 carts, so they'll only be able to get 1 supply per action. But he'll go ahead and get 5 supply. Now for the Muslims, it's Abu Bakr's turn, and he'll go ahead and move and invade Toledo, and then pay 1 supply. Now it's King Alfonso's turn again, and what will he do? He'll do a siege action, and he fails again, and failed bad enough that the battery ram won't help. So place another siege token, make it easier next time. And the lords need to feed their troops, and Alvar has 1 of his own, but Alfonso will have to pay for his troops and also Garcia's. So now it's Abu Bakr's turn, and he's still close enough to his seat to be able to do supply actions, and he'll go ahead and do 2 and get 2 Provender.